But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC 259, Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. We're going to talk two prop bets on this show, free plays, and they're going to be on the main event and the co-main event, so two plus money prop bets we're going to talk about. Also have my full slate of plays loaded, linked down in the description. I'm going to have 5 client plays, multiple plays I do like at plus money as well for client plays. This is really a juicy card for betting and for entertainment purposes, so this is really a great card overall. So definitely take a look. I've got 3 loaded in there right now. Gonna add 2 more before fight day comes up, so definitely you're interested, take a look. If not, we're going to talk 2 free plays as well. But before we do, let's talk about last week. We went 1, 2, and 1 on our client plays, and we did hit on Gain. That was one of our wins, but we actually had Gain with Angela Hill, and that was going to be paying out about a minus 120 range. I think it was minus 121. Really like the price on those two to just kind of get the victory. So we ended up boosting that play up on Gain. You know, not the greatest play there as well, but we did win. But the other two, I mean, the thing that I'm really mostly upset about was really the Montana De La Rosa versus Silva. I thought Silva did enough there. I mean, that cage grab really pissed me off. Ended up doing that and then taking the point away. She clearly, I thought, won pretty much that whole fight. Battered De La Rosa up. I thought Silva did enough. She ends up getting the draw there, so we ended up getting a draw there. And then one of the other losses I do want to talk about is Hernandez. I mean, Alexander Hernandez should not be known as the great. It should be mediocre because, boy, I just think that I don't know what he did. I mean, there was opportunity for him to kind of cut distance, and every time, you know, Devin Moises, who really isn't that great of a striker, looked fantastic striking up against Hernandez. He does get the loss. So we go 1, 2, and 1. Slight loss there, but not happy overall. Did not have a profitable night, but we are going to move forward. We are looking to make some profit here. Big plays coming up at UFC 259. So let's talk about that. We're going to talk 2 free plays. The first one we're going to talk about is on the main event of the evening between Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. And again, this is going to be a prop play that I have, but the current lines are roughly around minus 230, minus 240 on Adesanya's side. And then there also you have Jan Blachowicz, who is roughly a minus 180, minus 190, depending where you're shopping it. But like we always do, we're going to go down 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter in a certain area, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So what we're going to first do is we're going to first talk about Jan Blachowicz here. And Jan Blachowicz is a plus 180, 185, somewhere in there like we were just saying. 3 fights ago, he fought Jacare Souza. So this one here I thought was an interesting fight because when you take a look at the way this fight was really going, I mean, pretty much this entire fight was really handled up against the fence. I mean, you had Jacare pushing forward, you had him up against the fence. Both of them were grappling a lot. It's kind of hard to take a lot away from this fight, just from the simple fact that that's not really going to be happening in this fight Saturday night against Israel. Israel's going to be looking to kind of have distance, move around the cage, utilize some space, good distance management, and utilize that, obviously, that high-level kickboxing that he does have here. But this was a spot here that I thought that really, you know, Jacare did enough. You know, Jacare was going in there, landing some good shots, getting in the dirty boxing, and I think that really the smothering part was something that Blachowicz was not as comfortable with overall. And again, I'm not going to dive into this one, but I thought it was actually, I would give it to Jacare in this fight. I thought he just edged it out. It was a split decision for Jan, but I thought he edged it out enough here. And even in the striking department, I thought that Jacare did fairly well against you know, and Jacare, again, not the greatest striking, not very dominant, dynamic, you know, really pretty much heavy on his feet, not big movement. We've got Jan, who kind of the same kind of thing, heavy on his feet, not big movement, but also the fact that, you know, Jacare was landing. So that doesn't, to me, doesn't feel well when you're looking at who he's going to fight on Saturday night. But he does go out there, Jan, he does get the split decision victory over Jacare. 2 fights ago, he fought Corey Anderson. Now, this was a fight here, again, where you've got a guy who, you know what, I wouldn't call Corey Anderson that dynamic. I wouldn't say that he's got this masterful skill set. He's good. He's got some wrestling in there, and you've shown that he could have some decent striking. But this was a fight where really early on, Corey Anderson was landing. This is a spot where Corey was landing shots, walking Blachowicz down, utilizing his jab, getting good distance management, utilizing it, pushing forward, and really, I actually don't have it in front of me of when it was in the first round, but Jan didn't do much. I mean, he had very low activity, couldn't really find an opportunity to kind of set his feet, fire. He did, of course, throw some leg kicks. He liked to mix it up a little bit there, started landing a little bit, but really dictating the pace was Corey. I think Corey started to gain a little bit of momentum, moving forward, feeling comfortable, and it took one shot. Boom, lands it. Corey Anderson goes down, flatlined, out cold. But the part here about it was, I think that, you did see Jan didn't really look that comfortable. Again, not the most dynamic striking when it comes to Corey Anderson and really what he brings to the table. But he goes out there and he ends up getting knocked out. But again, it was one shot. And does the Polish power, is that where everyone's talking about the big Polish power? He did show here in this fight. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that power later on. We kind of break this all down together. But there you have it there. He goes up there and knocks out Corey Anderson in the first round. And then most recently, he fought Dominic Reyes. Now, this was a fight here where this is for the title, vacant title, big opportunity for both guys coming in here. And I would say the one thing about this fight, because I did like Reyes going into this fight, I just didn't think he looked good at all when you're talking about on the scale leading up to it. His movement in the cage, he looked drained, his body looked drained. I thought overall he just did not look the same Dominic Reyes that had fought against Jon Jones, how great he looked, just his skill set, the way that he was kind of setting up his combinations. I thought he didn't really do too much at all when it was coming down to that. So I think that, to me, obviously isn't, it's tough to take partly of why that happened, but you could tell, I thought overall, that he just didn't look the same. But going into that first round, pretty much not much happened. Again, this is another spot where really a lot didn't really happen. It wasn't a lot of dynamic striking. It wasn't a lot of big pushing forward. Both guys kind of stayed on the outside. More or less, there were some nice shots again where Jan, utilizes some of his leg kicks. They're kind of range finders, and then he looked for the hard body kick. He landed a massive body kick. It was really kind of a side kick where he just, it was one, and it almost looked like, Reyes was, hit with a truck. He had a big spot on his side early on in that fight. But overall, that first round was kind of, again, it could have been a feeling out process, but it was a 1-2 for one guy, then the other guy would fire. And it was like a 1-2 kick, the other guy would fire. It wasn't really big exchanges, maybe a feeling out process. But in that first round, not much happened. Going to that second round again, the feeling out process continued. Both of the guys were kind of feeling it out. And then it looked like Reyes kind of had it and just went for it and kind of really took out any strategy. And again, it's hard to, obviously you've got to have a happy medium between really finding an opportunity for the openings and then also just, firing with reckless abandon. And that's kind of what he did there, where I think that he just wanted to go for it. He went for it, got caught, stepped back a little bit, and Jan landed another big shot, dropped him, finished the fight. It went from a very slow fight to a fight-ending shot. And he goes out there, he knocks out Reyes, gets the title, wins the belt, and goes up there and gets the victory. Second round knockout over Dominic Reyes. On the other side, you've got Israel Adesanya. Now, in this spot here, Israel Adesanya, again, minus 230, 240, somewhere in that range. In this spot here, when he fought Robert Whittaker, was an absolutely interesting fight, where Adesanya fights Whittaker in a spot where Whittaker has looked masterful. He has looked at a spot where he has beaten, Yoel Romero twice, and he's just looked really great. He's tough. He's finished some guys, fought wars. There were so many great things he does. And in this spot here, could he really withstand? Could Adesanya really withstand some of the things that Whittaker could do? And this was a masterclass in striking. This was an absolute clinic. In the 2 rounds that this fight lasted, this just showed that next level of what Adesanya could do. Because in that first round, you saw a couple exchanges, but it was early in that first round, and I would even say a couple minutes, maybe first 2 minutes or whatever it was, where Whittaker just, looking to kind of utilize some striking, throwing out some combinations, and he's hitting air. He's missing completely. Not landing at all. Adesanya bouncing in and out, utilizing, again, the rangy combinations that he has, was going outside, firing nicely, and then Whittaker just could not counter, could not find the opportunity to counter. And the way that he's moving, circling the cage, again, Whittaker could not find. And then I would say the end of that first round, is kind of where Whitaker kind of said, I like almost lunging forward, almost out of position lunging because he couldn't really, get into rhythm. Couldn't really find the opportunity to get into rhythm, find the opportunity to counter, where Israel is just a really tough puzzle to figure out, and you saw it late in that first round where he went to fire and bang, 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 got caught a couple times, went to fire again, bang, bang, bang. The backing up check hook that Israel Adesanya has is just amazing. It's just fantastic the way that he does that. And in that fight there, in the end of that first round, goes out there, drops him. It probably would have been the end of the fight if there's a couple more seconds left. I think in that fight, the fight was over. But he goes into that second round, and it was just more of the same. Dropped them, finished the fight. Israel Adesanya looked so crisp, so comfortable, so calm in a big spot. I think that speaks volumes of the kind of fighter that he is, the mindset that he has, how comfortable he is with his skill set, and just overall confidence. Looked fantastic. Goes out there, gets the second round knockout over Robert Whitaker. 2 fights ago, we fought Yoel Romero, and this one here is one where it just was very underwhelming. Yoel didn't really fight much, and then at the beginning he kind of stood in just a normal spot, and again, it was actually ended up being a little bit closer than it should have been, I think, in certain areas and that kind of thing, just because of the odd way that Yoel fought. But he goes out there, he does beat Romero, and does get the victory, so I'm kind of going to skip over that one. And then most recently, he fought Paulo Costa. Now, this was another fight here where you did have the fact that Costa was not going to have the big reach advantage. He was going to have about a 7-inch disadvantage. I think Israel, somewhere around there, was going to have that advantage on him. And this was another spot where, again, it's a tough puzzle to figure out. His movement, his range of striking, the way that he fires, the angles, is just a lot to figure out. And I thought Costa thought he could just bully him, kind of walk you down, get you in a spot where going to kind of corner you and throw the big shots. And of course, he's going to land a couple shots there. But Israel is just very smart. I think he's very high fight IQ. That's what he did out there. He waited for the good shots. And Israel has shown that he's got power. I mean, I think a lot of people don't really put him into that power, I guess category. But he's got power, and he goes out there with a beautiful shot, drops Costa, finishes the fight in that second round, puts the stamp on that fight, gets the victory, retains the title, so there you have it there. So with that all being said, you look at the way these two guys are here now, and I think there's a lot to really kind of unpack when you're really looking at what this is. You've got a guy, obviously, in Israel that's moving up in weight as a champion, undefeated, fighting a guy who's obviously, comfortable in that weight class, is the champion, big guy. But the thing here, I think, and the most part of this, I really believe, is the speed. Now, I think the speed is absolutely a big part of this because you've got Blachowicz, who has the power, and we're gonna talk a little about that Polish power in a second here, but has that power, has shown good ability, has knocked out some guys, and done well. I mean, obviously he's a champion for a reason. He's a fantastic fighter. But the speed at which Israel fights and Blachowicz fights are just different levels. I mean, they're really different levels. And the counter-striking ability, of course, he's not going to have that big reach. I mean, Israel's going to have a slight reach over him, which could, affect certain things in this fight. But I just think that the fact that, Blachowicz doesn't really have those quick strikes. And again, if you look at what he is, it's the power, it's the leg kicks, and he's durable. I think those are some really great things that Blachowicz has on his side that he can utilize. He's not scared to mix it up. But really his overall, and again, taking a little piece of the speed to the side for a minute, if you look at his overall skill set, just the striking skill set that Blachowicz has, he's really just a leg check, does throw some nice kicks. Again, he does throw some nice kicks, but he's really a hooking kind of fighter where he doesn't really set up a lot. He doesn't really look to trick you. There's no tricks behind his striking. It's very vanilla offense. There isn't really much that goes into it besides for really the power that he's been able to show, late in his career, and he's able to show that power. And that's something that I think he can kind of go on, but if you're going on a puncher's chance, I don't think there's much behind that. If you're just saying a puncher's chance, we've got Israel, who's got elite level striking, top level distance management, good fight IQ, great when it comes to utilizing his range, great footwork overall, and I think also is the volume at which both guys fight. I mean, you've got Jan, who has just shown, and we even just talked about a couple of fights there, where he's very low level. I mean, very, very low level, not high volume, not looking to really pour out this big offense, where a guy like Israel, you're gonna need something like that. You're gonna need to put him in tough positions, corner him in certain spots, utilize some grappling, get back on the outside, where Jan is very flat-footed, slow developing combinations. He's really there to be hit. I think this is a spot where he's going to be there to be hit. And when Israel's moving around, there's not going to be much that Blachowicz is going to be able to do to really kind of counter that. He's going to look to counter. I think that's the way, that's his path to victory, or at least I believe that his path to victory will be, he's going to look for that counter. He's going to look, hey, Israel's going to fire, and I'm going to look for that one big shot. I don't think that that's any kind of offense that you can really have that's sustainable over a 5-round fight against a guy that has such high-level striking in Israel Adesanya. I think that's huge. Now, we're talking about the Polish power here again. I think the big thing here with this is people talk about it. Now, over the last, 4 fights, he's knocked out 3 guys, and, he's, Luke Rockhold, Luke Rockhold, Corey Anderson, and Reyes. So Reyes, I thought, was a nice knockout. Again, to me, it's just the eye test. I did not really like what I saw from Reyes overall. Would be interested to see what happens next fight for him. But with those 3 guys there, you've got Luke Rockhold is, on the Mount Rushmore of glass chins. And you've got Corey Anderson, who at times has shown some suspectability with his chin. And then you got Reyes, like I said, it was a nice knockout. But before those 3 knockouts, the last time that Blachowicz knocked somebody out was in 2014, and it was Ilir Latifi. So you've got a massive gap in there where it's not that he's this big knockout artist. I mean, it's just kind of something that has worked out for him, and he's been able to find some victories that way, but this is not his thing. So for him to kind of find this, I think now he's 38 years old and, tailing towards the end of his career. To me, this feels like a perfect setup for the UFC to say, you know what, we're giving Israel Adesanya this fight, and this is a great opportunity for him to be a double champion. He's an undefeated guy. He can move up in weight. The fact that Blachowicz just won this title, a vacant title that it may be, and now he's fighting arguably one of the top fighters in the UFC. So to me, it's just a very weird setup that they're making this fight happen. Not even giving Blachowicz, hey, let's give you a fight or 2 and see if you can defend and see if you're really worth having a champion versus champion matchup here. So that's kind of the awkwardness there too. But also, I want to also say, is the space at which Blachowicz fights. Blachowicz is very, very comfortable at a distance. He's not, he's a guy where he's not going to say, hey, I'm going to smother you. I'm going to put that pressure up. He's okay with a little bit of distance. Again, he's not quick. He doesn't have these quick movements. So he's okay with kind of being on the outside, looking for the big counter, letting the other fighter dictate the pace of the fight, where somebody like Israel is going to be the guy that is going to be fine leading that dance. And you saw it even where Blachowicz got knocked out against Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos, a lot of movement, countering, a lot of movement, and it was a close fight until he kind of pushed forward wildly, banged the big counter, drops him. Blachowicz does not have that quick first step. Those are the things that I really believe that Israel decided to go out there and get this victory. So for me here, as my free play, as my prop play, I'm going Israel Adesanya to win via knockout. Now that's, again, it's a nice price here. It's a plus 130. I think the price is nice here. I think there's an absolute possibility that this is going to happen. Could it happen over 5? Could he sit there and pick up part over 5 rounds? I think that he's going to look to really chop out those legs early in this fight, slow down Blachowicz even further, and then pick him apart from there. And I think that he's not going to have much offense. So my play here is going to be Israel Adesanya to win via knockout as one of my props. And the other one, I'm just going to kind of throw this one out there. Not going to dive into it, just kind of give it to you guys, is on the co-main event between Amanda Nunes and Megan Anderson. Megan, whatever the hell her name is. But in this fight here, you've got Nunes, she's minus 1,300. You've got Anderson, she's plus 730 range. Massive. And I think rightfully so, to be honest with you. I think absolutely rightfully so. This line is kind of where it should be. So if you're looking to play here, I really think the play is going to have to be on a prop. So when you're taking a look at this, I think, again, to quickly run this down, is Megan Anderson, to start, has not faced anyone anywhere in the caliber of the people and the females, I should say, that Amanda Nunes has faced. I mean, it is just not, it's just galaxies apart where you see who these two have faced overall and who Nunes has beat, how she's beat them. You know, really impressive. Now she's kind of thrown in that grappling ability. You saw what she did against Durandamy, who really is, you know, this long, lanky kickboxer, and you took her down and showed the strength there, showed she was smart there, how was she able to do it. And you've got Anderson, who is definitely, you know, she's 6-footer against, you know, I think Nunes is 5'5", 5'6", somewhere in there. So you've got the big height advantage here is going to be one thing. But if you look at, again, the caliber, I mean, you've got, you know, Anderson, who just beat, it was Norma Dumont, who I think is 5-1. And now has 2 fights in the UFC, and I think she's 1-1. And then before that, I forget her name, to be honest, but I think it was Zyra, I think is what her name was. But I think it was 6-4, and you know, she was 0-2 in the UFC. So these are some of the fights that she had that got her to the big dance against Nunes. And even one of her big noticeable fights for Megan Anderson was against Kat Zingano. But that was where the fight ended because her toe went into Kat Zingano's eye and ended the fight, and this whole weird kind of scenario how the fight ended. But these are the wins that she has. And then you've got Nunes, who's just been a world beater, and the biggest difference for me here is obviously going to be the height. That's going to be big. That's going to be big. Now, can she cut that distance? Now, the big part also, as we've seen that Megan Anderson is definitely vulnerable to those takedowns. And she was exposed against Holly Holm not long ago, where it was just bang, take her down, bang, take her down, could not get up. I'm sure she's improved that. There's only one way to go, and it's just to make it better, to improve it. But what I really think here in this spot is that Nunes is going to have the ability to really take her time in this fight. And we're used to seeing her going out there sledgehammering everybody, but I don't think that Anderson's going to look to just step in the pocket and exchange. Even if she's got a reach advantage or a height advantage or whatever other advantage you can think of, I don't think that's what Nunes is going to do. I don't think that that's what Anderson's going to do. I think you're going to see some grappling. I think you're going to see some time getting chipped away up against the fence. This is a spot here where if you're getting off this big number on Nunes again, minus 1,300 is just absurd to bet. I think, honestly, even in a parlay, it almost doesn't even make sense. So, to me here in this spot, it's a method of victory play. I think this goes the distance. I really do. I think this goes the distance. I think it's a dominating performance from her. I think that, Anderson's going to, again, play to her strengths where she can, and she's going to not just stand in the pocket and bang. Nunes at plus 500 to win via decision, to me, is a great price. Tons of value there. Again, these prop bets, I'm not telling you to bet your bankroll on. These are little portions to client plays that I do have. And this is a great spot here. We're a big plus money on a girl who is a minus 1,300. I really like the price there. So I will be taking Amanda Nunes via decision plus 500. So those are my 2 free plays for UFC 259. You want to check out my whole package, link down in the description. I'm going to have about 5 plays, got 3 up right now, but going to have 2 more added to my package. Really excited about this card, multiple title fights, champion versus champion. Definitely take a look, like, subscribe, comment, all those great things, and we will see you on the next one. This is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and we'll see you next time.